All right, we are back here on the podcast, getting ready for the NBA playoffs here. We're in the middle of the play-in tournament. The full first round starts on Saturday. Joining me today to break it all down, we left these guys a few months ago about the NBA at the All-Star break. Now we're here to get ready for the playoffs. The guys from Sorry to Interrupt, Sean Rowe, Tom Bocchino are back here. Welcome back, guys. How are you?
What's going on, man? It's great to be on. Sean, how are you?
Doing great. Mike, thanks for having us back, man.
Absolutely, man. I felt like it was very fun the last time we talked and saying, are the Knicks going to avoid the play-in? That's going to avoid the play-in. They both did. They both got to the first round.
Yeah. Apparently the divisions in the NBA matter not at all. Literally not at all, because the Heat won their division and they're still the 8th seed. The Nets and the Knicks both held off the Heat and the Hawks. And here we are, Sean. We made it to the first round, my friend.
Yeah, very impressed with both of our teams facing the adversity that they both faced this season. Obviously, my team more so than yours. But yeah, it's fun to say that we're guaranteed at least 4 games. I think you're guaranteed more than that, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
we're going to find that out.
Yeah, I think a good point of the division title thing, though. It makes no sense why they still have division in the NBA. I mean, I don't know what matters less. The NBA division title, the points on whose lines anyway.
Yeah, I really couldn't. I haven't seen a reason as to why they still have divisions. Maybe it's they play those teams more often like they do in the MLB, but it literally does not matter at all.
Yeah, the NHL, I know it matters at least for seeding purposes, but other than that, not that much either. Because Bill Simmons said on his podcast, the reason that I brought it to ours was like, the winner of the Southeast is guaranteed at least the 6th seed. So that's what I said. And then he was like, no, actually, I was wrong about that. So I figured if the Podfather could be wrong about things, we can too.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's funny because the NHL is completely opposite where divisions matter a lot because not only the division winner, the first 2 rounds of the playoffs basically division play. So who you play in your division with matters a crap ton in the NHL.
Yeah. Yeah, but nonetheless, we're both in here, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, we're both excited for it here. I'll start with the Knicks here because obviously, since the last time we talked here, obviously the addition of Josh Hart really catalyzed the Knicks very well here. They got themselves all the way up to the 5 seed. They're playing the Cavaliers here, but they do have a big injury as Julius Randle now is been out for a few weeks. We don't know if he's ready for Game 1 on Saturday here. Give me the state of the Knicks, guys.
Well, Julius Randle, as of 2 hours ago, according to the Daily News, has still not been cleared for contact. Game 1 is when? On
Saturday night.
Saturday night. So I'm going to go with that he's not going to be ready. And for as much of a flawed player as Julius Randle is, I still think obviously he's the second best player on the Knicks. He's very important. And he's going to be a massive loss offensively and a little bit defensively as well. He's been much better with his rotations and whatnot. Obi Toppin and obviously, like you already mentioned, Josh Hart are really going to have to step up. I don't know if Toppin has it in him. So needless to say, I am very concerned.
Yeah, I think from the Knicks standpoint is you're riding the high of what was a really good season, but Brunson's been banged up towards the end of the season here too. I know he had a hand. I know he had a foot issue.
Yeah.
Quickly's been playing great, and I know Toppin finished the season playing very well in Randall's absence, but that was against nobodies in meaningless games. So not to take anything away from him, but we haven't seen him do it in a big stage. I think, Randall is a very, he's a very tough guy in terms of Knicks fandom and New York sports fandom in terms of, you respect the fact that he is as good as he is, but he also drives you absolutely nuts. You can't replace 25 points a game. If he's not good to go, that's a lot of points that you're going to have to make up from. Quickly, could be the 6th man of the year, but now you're probably thrusting him into a starting role. Josh Hart, I love coming off the bench and kind of being that bulldog. Maybe if he now has to play extra minutes, just spread your rotations kind of thin. RJ Barrett will then have to probably be, the key X factor in the series.
Yeah, I mean, there were points this season where RJ Barrett wasn't even in the closing lineups. He was getting benched for Josh Hart in those spots. Now he's got to be a very important guy for them in this series.
No doubt about it. It's Julius Randle might be the worst player that we could lose because he was going to be the guy who kept probably the NBA Defensive Player of the Year heavily occupied in Mobley. And now he's just going to be able to roam. And he's a guy who he might be the most switchable player in the NBA. He could play anywhere from the 5 all the way to you could see him guarding Jalen Brunson and even giving him a hard time. And now he's going to be able to kind of play free safety and roam because Randall's not going to be there, or at least we're anticipating that. Not to mention that the best defensive team by pretty much every metric imaginable is the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Knicks I'm concerned that they don't have the firepower in order to keep up with them.
It's definitely ironic. You consider here that this is a team that finished considering Tom Thibodeau's represents a defensive head coach. Now this team that finished top 3 offensively, which is very strange. And you would think the one advantage they really have here is that the backcourt for Cleveland is not the best defensive unit here. So you would have to figure that you need guys like Brunson and Quickly and Grimes to take advantage of Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland in these matchups.
I agree with you, but the problem is that the Knicks backcourt is not very stout defensively either. I mean, Quickly coming off the bench can play a little bit of defense, but Brunson is a turnstile as well on our side. And not to mention the Cavaliers probably have, I don't know, Sean, what do you think? They definitely have the best player in the series. Maybe they have the top 2 or 3 players in the series.
I think
you could tuck Brunson in there ahead of Mobley, maybe.
Yeah, I think if you forced me, let's just say that Randall. Are we using the caveat that Randall's out or that he's healthy and available?
I think we could safely assume he's probably not going to play game 1 or game 2. I think game 3 on Friday is probably the reasonable target there.
All right. Well, then if that's the case, then I would probably go Mitchell, Garland, Brunson, Mobley.
Yeah. But it's real close between Mobley and Brunson, I'm guessing, too, for you.
Yeah, I would still take Brunson, just seeing what he did with Dallas last year, and I think he really has been the reason you were able to stay with that 5 seed, even despite Randall's really good year. But, I mean, Garland's a stud.
Not to mention he also, reinvigorated Randall as well.
No doubt about it. But Garland's a stud. We know what Mitchell is. I think Mobley's a huge deal because of, you mentioned, his switchability on defense. He already is such a pro with that. His offensive game is not great, but, he knows how to get to his spots. I think this is really going to be – I think these two teams are very evenly matched, but Randall's absence, and then obviously when he comes back, is he coming back at 60%, at 80%, at 100%? We don't know, right?
Yeah, I assume it's probably less than 100 if he's on the floor.
Yep. No doubt about it. He's definitely not going to be fully healthy, and there's just a couple of guys coming off the bench that can fill it up for the Cavs as well. Your old boy, Karis LeVert, although he's fallen out of the lineup a little bit. They've got a few players coming off the bench that scare me as well. And a lot of shooters on that team.
There's a lot of shooters on that team. I mean, you're going to need the young guys to step up. We've seen Quickly have games where he was unbelievably good, like that Boston game and a couple others. But, that's not every night. But that's because you haven't asked him to do it every night. Now that you are, this is going to be a really interesting spot to see how he is. And again, I'm going to go to RJ Barrett here. I think this is a real pivotal point in this guy's career. You don't include him in the Donovan Mitchell trade. He was drafted 3rd overall in a class that, even though Zion hasn't played, they had him, and obviously Ja Morant, despite everything that's gone on with him this year, is a clear-cut bona fide superstar. And Barrett's just not that guy. And you mentioned he wasn't even closing minutes once they got Josh Hart, Mike. I mean, that's brutal to say for the former number 3 overall pick in his 4th year. This should be a guy. I think we can give him a pass for that Atlanta series. Nobody played particularly well in that series, and the team wasn't very good. Tom says all the time they overachieved, and I couldn't agree more. But he should be a lot more of a focal point than us going up and down these rosters and saying maybe he's like the 8th or 9th most important player.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, guys, I think that if you look at his stats over the past, I'd say month, Quentin Grimes is way more valuable and important than RJ Barrett. I mean, look at the numbers the guy's been putting up over the past month and a half. He's been averaging probably about 18 to 20 points a game and almost playing 40 minutes a game as well. And he might be just as good of a defender as RJ Barrett. I think Grimes is more important than Barrett, to be honest with you.
Yeah, let's make a call here. Like, if let's say Julius Randle is back for game 3 and he's about 70% here, which I think is probably the safest bet because he's not even clear for contact today as of data recording here. Like, how
Yep.
does the series play out here? You think this is like a Cavs in 5 kind of situation?
I guess I'll go first. I think Cavs in 5 is spot on. I mean, I think the Knicks, if Randall was fully healthy, could probably take this series in 6, really push them. But I just think Mitchell's going to have a game where he gets to 35, 40 points. You're going to pencil that in there, and he's going to be right around 28 points a game for the rest of them. And then Garland's going to have a game where he goes off. And I just don't think that the Knicks are going to have the firepower in order to keep up with them.
Yeah, prior to this series, on our Monday Rundown pod, Tom predicted Knicks in 6. I said Knicks in 7.
I was also assuming, as I'm guessing you were as well, that Randall was going to be more healthy up and coming on the series.
You'd be correct. That's what I was going to finish that point with, was that was under the assumption Randall was playing. I will not say 5. I think the Knicks have too much pride. I will say Cleveland in 6.
Yeah, I also feel like this is, as we said, that Mitchell and Garland have games. I feel like there's also be one game that Jalen Brunson just goes off and steals it for the Knicks. I feel like that I can call as well.
These two teams are too evenly matched. Even losing a Randall, like, I don't look at Cleveland being like, oh my God, now you're so, Mitchell's great, but he's not Embiid. Mitchell's great, but he's not Tatum or Brown. Mitchell's great, but he's not Giannis. So it's like, I have too much respect for what the Knicks have done this year. Five games is really a one-sided affair. I think that it would go more around that 6 range.
All right, so let's go ahead. Let's go over to the Nets side of the aisle here. Obviously, they hung on for dear life for the play-in turn. They outlasted the Heat to avoid that. They go ahead to take on one of the few hottest teams in the NBA, the 76ers here. Like, you can't say that this matchup is great for them.
No, it's not great for. What are you saying? Not great for the Nets or not great for the Sixers?
The Nets.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, you got to deal with Joel Embiid. The Sixers swept the Nets this year. I know that there were 2 different iterations of this team, but yeah, the Sixers are clear cut the better team. There's no doubt about that. I think the Nets could steal one game. I see this series being very similar to the 2019 series, where the Nets kind of went into Philly and punked them and won game 1, and then Philadelphia blew them out in game 2, won a tough game 3, and then blew them out in 4 and 5. I wouldn't be shocked to see that at all. I mean, the Nets won more games than I thought they would in the second half, but I think you both would agree. Some of those games they won against some absolutely terrible teams, and they needed, 1-point wins or 2-point wins to do it. I don't know how they score enough points, and there's obviously no answer for Embiid. So I have Philly winning in 5.
Yeah, I'm right there with Sean. What did you call it in our podcast? Did you call it a douchebag sweep or a gentleman sweep?
Yeah.
Kind of the opposite end of the spectrum there, but I think it's going to be one game for the Nets. They may even punch the Sixers right in the mouth and take them in game 1, but then after that, I think it's going to be a clean sweep for Philly. Just too much talent and too much size. The Nets just have too many players at 6'8" or 6'7".
Yeah, plus, I mean, like, if the thing that I've not been on the Nets as much as I could be over the second half here. Like, who is getting these shots in the big moments here? Because obviously before the trades, you knew who was getting it. I don't even know who the go-to guy is in those late clutch.
Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, it's got to be Bridges. I mean, that guy. Phoenix. I know they got Durant. And I know anybody would make that trade and should make that trade, but I wish they didn't include him in that trade because he's really blossomed. And then again, though, I guess arguing against myself, he probably never would have become that player on that team, but he's been excellent.
He was never going to get the usage rate in Phoenix that he has here. I would say in terms of crunch time, they'll go Bridges 1. I would say probably Dinwiddie 2, just because he does have a knack for making some big shots, and the Nets coaching staff trusts him. I do think that there is a way where they don't. I think Harden is going to have one game where he goes off, but the rest of the time he's going to be a facilitator because he's just not going to be able to get past Bridges. Bridges is going to lock him down. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA. And then you've also got Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, Dinwiddie's a bigger guard. You can match Nick Claxton. Tom, you mentioned how Mobley can pretty much guard the 5-3-1. So can Nick Claxton very, very well. He should have gotten more votes for Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion. I think he would have if the Stars stayed, but that's a conversation for another day. I think the Nets could confuse Philly for spurts. And if they get hot shooting with a guy like Harris and Curry and Johnson, and like, okay, maybe we can talk themselves into winning more than one game, but Philly's just too good. They would need something to go terribly wrong, like an Embiid injury or a Harden injury, to really give the Nets any semblance of a chance.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, but I think that this is going to be the best series for Philly to get started, because the questions of Doc Rivers since the Celtics championship being a playoff coach, and obviously James Harden's playoff woes, those are going to come up in the second round and beyond that.
Yeah, I feel like this definitely falls the gentleman sweep category, where like Nets get a game, but the Philly just talent base just overpowers them, and Philly's just sitting there like, okay, like what do we do here with Boston when we get there? That's sort of like the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to look at it. I am impressed with the Nets, though, and I'm happy with the direction that they'll be in following this series. They've got, it seems like, a real bona fide franchise guy in Bridges. They have a ton of picks. They'll probably re-sign Cam Johnson. They have some roster decisions to make. Ben Simmons is really the albatross, but we'll save that conversation maybe for the summer.
Yeah, it's definitely a summer conversation here. And in terms of there's something related to both these New York teams here. The way the Mavs season ended, I think, has been hysterical last for both teams, considering that the Kyrie Irving trade flopped so badly for them that they fell from 5th place in the West to out of the playoffs entirely, and that they decided to literally tank the season when they still had a shot to get in the play-in tournament. So what do you guys think about what happened in Dallas?
Tom, you take it first.
I thought it was stupid. I just think to go for the 10th pick. First of all, the main thing is that in order to make your team better, you need to be able to have tradable assets. And they're doing this. They're locking up that pick that still belongs to the Knicks at some point down the line. And whereas if they had just tanked, and it's only like a 4 or 5 player draft, and they're probably going to get between the 8 and the 10 spot in the draft, if they had just gone through and made the playoffs like they should have, because they have a top 5 player in basketball, given up that pick, they'd have a lot more flexibility in order to make Luka happy over the next few seasons. Whereas now they kind of lock themselves in because they're hamstrung. They can't trade that pick. I thought it was pretty laughable. I mean, it's like, I know we can't curse on this podcast. It's like, or get off the pot. Like, you went a couple of weeks ago, you went all in on Kyrie Irving, and now you decide to tank for a 10 pick where maybe you'll get a rotational player in order to keep it from the Knicks. I thought it was pretty stupid. And I don't think they know what the heck they're doing over there in Dallas. And I don't know if Luka is long to stay there either.
I find this unbelievably laughable, and it makes me very, very happy. Because karma's a you-know-what. I love the fact that, and Tom and I have talked about this on the pod too, Mike. Like, the problems with this Dallas situation go way past just Kyrie. Listen, I'm happy to throw crap at Kyrie as much as anybody after what he did to my team. But at the end of the day, they didn't retain Brunson. That was a huge loss for them.
By the way, sorry to interrupt you. They could have had Brunson for like, what was it, $40 million?
I think it was like 50,
against.
I think it was 56.
Something like that. Yeah, he was willing to take that contract by all accounts mid-season last year. I just wanted to throw that in there. Sorry, Sean.
No, that's a good point to make. So you got, obviously, they did not address the rebounding or the defense. And you go into the season and you're around that 5th seed, but you're trying to make a splash, right? They were kind of mediocre heading into that trade deadline, and you get an unhappy Kyrie and you say, okay, we're going to go for the chance to just bludgeon teams and we'll win 136 to 129 every game. Problem with that is you lose Dinwiddie, who, even though isn't the greatest player in the world, he is a good defensive big guard who can shoot and play solid defense on a couple of different guys. And obviously, Finney Smith's calling card is defense, and he made some big shots for them in the postseason. Just to get Kyrie Irving, who I said this on our pod last episode, Mike. I mean, I think it's safe to say now that he's a guy that, despite how talented he is, and he still is amazing, there's not a single team he's gone to that has gotten better with him. Like and I had to swallow this pill with the Nets. Like when KD didn't play, or in that little spurt there where Harden was on the team, like when it was just Kyrie and everybody else, they didn't win many games, like really at all. He plays no defense. He checks in and out when, he wants to. And unfortunately for Dallas, that's what Luke has been doing all year too. Tom, you made a great point. You said he has to lead the league in worst body language. He absolutely does. This team is really in a precarious spot, and I don't know how they get much better because now it sounds like they're going to, like Mark Cuban is on the record saying we will not be outbid for Kyrie Irving. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, it's a very bad defensive team. A fit that did not work very well when they were on the court together. Plus, I did double check while you guys talk here. They did make their pick last year. That they end up trading the rights to a guy later on, so they can move this pick. But really put themselves in the corner here, where they have to trade this pick for somebody this year. Otherwise, they're kind of in the same spot where they can't really do anything because they got to convey it to the Knicks next year.
Yeah, exactly what I was saying. I mean, they could move this pick hypothetically, but they still stuck giving up another pick to the Knicks. And yeah, none of this ever made sense because if you don't remember, the reason why they were so great last year and they went all the way to the Western Conference Finals is because in the second half of the season last year, they were the best defensive team in the league somehow. I don't know how. I couldn't explain to you why or how, but by all accounts, they were the best defensive team. And that's between that and Luka just playing amazing basketball. That's what led them to the Western Conference Finals. And then they turn around and they give up all their defense to double down on Kyrie Irving, and it just blew up in their face a lot more quickly than even I thought. I thought that they were going to look good for at least a month because Kyrie Irving was going to be happy. They looked good for what, maybe 2 games?
I never thought that they would go into having to make a decision between tanking and the play-in game.
Oh,
I had
no
my
way.
doubts. I had my questions, but no, I didn't foresee anything like this.
Yeah, it's also wild, too, because who knows what Kyrie actually wants to do? Because I could just totally see Kyrie saying, F you guys, I want to go back and play with LeBron. The best chance to win a championship.
I'll tell you what he wants to do. Yeah, all he wants to do is get his max deal. And it sounds like Dallas will be the only team that offers it to him. So that's all he wants. And then he'll get his money. And then when Luka starts to have issues and they have their first on the court, disagreement, so to speak, he'll miss a couple games and he'll say how he's not appreciated enough and call a teammate or two out and call out his coach. And
you don't sound bitter at all, dude.
I'm sorry. Tell me how I'm wrong.
You're not at all.
All I know is these two teams in this area with all of these draft picks they're hoarding and all these young players that they have, they're keeping a very close eye on whether or not Luka's going to try and force a way out of there.
They're ready.
Yeah. They're definitely both ready here. And let's go ahead here. A couple more things, quick rapid fire here. We are recording on the day between the final games of the 8 seeds here on the play-in tournament here. Eastern Conference, Miami taking on the Bulls. Who do you got in that game?
Sean, you were spot on with the first couple picks. I think you're batting 1,000 when it comes to playing game picks, and I'm batting 0. So I'm just going to go with whatever you said and take Chicago.
Yep.
This Heat team is so fugazi. I thought that they were going to blow out the Hawks in the first game, and the Hawks just came in and kicked their ass. And I'm just going to go with the Bulls. I think the Heat look pretty done.
Yeah, the Heat kind of feel like, to me, a team is sort of they're there on name value and reputation, but something's been off with them all year. The fact they never really got it going, it just tells me something needs to be changed with that mix.
I mean, they're one of the worst statistically shooting teams in the entire league. Yeah. They just don't score points.
It's Jimmy Butler and Bam, and then everybody else on that team this year sucks. And Jimmy Butler and Bam are not great shooters either. So
and Bam progressed a little defensively too.
Yeah, and when you're trading 2-pointers for 3-pointers, it's really not a recipe for winning in today's NBA.
Yeah, and the Bulls would love to win that playing game too, so they don't have to give a lottery pick to Orlando from the Vucevic trade.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's
absolutely.
A good point.
And DeRozan looks poised.
Yeah,
but it also is a precarious situation for them because if they get the 8 seed, they'll get waxed by Milwaukee, but they might then go from potential sellers where they could reset their organization and talk themselves into oh no, remember how we played from February through April? Maybe we keep the core together, and then they start the season off, 5-15.
Yep, and then fire Billy Donovan.
Yeah.
Trade everybody away.
And no Lonzo Ball next year either, because he's still out for another surgery.
I mean, that breaks my heart. I love Lonzo. His game is just so good, or at least it was.
It was. You go to the Western Conference here. the Fighting Timberwolves, who are now getting Gobert back in the lineup after the shoving match with Anderson, and had the matchup with the young and up and coming Thunder here. What do you guys feel about that game?
OKC.
I got OKC as well. I really liked what I saw. I watched that game last night. I really liked what I saw out of Giddey, and I love what I saw out of SGA. He had a terrible first half and then comes out and gives you basically 30 in the second half. That was incredible. So I really liked what I saw out of him. And the Timberwolves are in flux, and that's what I wanted to say. The Mavs should really be thanking the Timberwolves, because if it wasn't for them with the asinine Rudy Gobert trade, not to mention the complete soap opera that they've had going on the last week, everybody would be talking about how much of a joke the Mavs are.
Yeah, that was quite embarrassing.
No doubt about it.
With the Gobert Kyle Anderson thing.
It's Rudy Gobert in a nutshell, man. I mean, it really is. This is what you signed up for. This is what you gave up your basically entire future for. And by the way, Ant had 9 points, and Cat had 14 in a must-win game. Ouch.
Yeah, not good. It did help the Lakers get in the playoffs. We see them probably the last time we talked.
That was an ugly game.
Yeah, that was not a fun game to watch at all. But yeah, Gobert sucks. I don't blame Kyle Anderson at all. By all accounts, not that I know the guy personally, he's an amazing teammate. And Gobert is, he basically started COVID, right? He caused it. It's his fault.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead now a little bit here. We got some first round matchups here. Like, is Knicks Cavs the best match on the board? There are some other ones you have that you're excited about.
What do you think, Tom?
If Randall was healthy, I'd be a little more excited. I guess for the first round, I'm already looking ahead. I guess Knicks Cavs is probably the most interesting. I think the rest are going to be gentlemen's or douchebag sweeps, as you like to say, Sean.
Yeah, in the East, it's only one series. It's New York and Cleveland. After that, obviously, you go over to the West. You've got Memphis, LA with their, rivalry from in season. You got Shannon Sharp fighting with John Morant's dad, so that's great. Then you've got obviously the Northern California battle with the pedigree that is the Warriors going up against lighting the beam Sacramento back in the playoffs for the first time since '06. And then obviously get your popcorn ready with Phoenix and why am I drawing a blank? And the Clippers. So, yeah, you got Kawhi and KD. You got Booker and Paul George. Chris Paul needs a big win going up against his Clippers. That series is going to be great. I think outside of the Knicks Cavs, all the good series are in the West.
Yeah, the West is just stacked with good series. In the East, we could all just focus on the West, because I think a lot of those series are going to be over pretty quickly.
Yeah, where'd you guys fall that debate that was going on social media about whether the Clippers should have tanked themselves to get into the play and avoid the Suns in round one?
I'm just a big believer in just in those situations, just win the games, because has it ever worked? If you guys can remember a situation where it has, you can correct me, but I just feel like it always goes badly. It's just bad karma when you lose games intentionally like that.
Yeah, the Clippers had small stretches this year where they were everybody's darling pick out of the West. You got Kawhi Leonard. Yeah, you got Tom all bought in here. It's Kawhi. You got Kawhi, you got Paul George, you've got, Russell Westbrook, who seems like he's fit in. You don't bow down to anybody. And as great as the Suns have been with KD, they've only played, 10 games with him? Right? See what you can do. Come on, if you're a real challenger to the West. I could see Sacramento wanting to do it. I could see the Lakers wanting to do it. I could see, maybe the Warriors choosing to do it. But if you're the Clippers, come on, man, let's go at it.
Yeah, I do feel like trying to galaxy bring away the best match almost never works.
No, I just think if you take your foot off the gas pedal, it's tough to go back into the playoffs and try and knock down and drag out on that one. And I think the last time I came on your pod, I did pick the Clippers, but now, we're going to talk about predictions later. It's tough when they have this first round draw.
It is here. In terms of the East here, best teams out here. I think we're safely assuming that one of the Milwaukee, Boston, Philly trios are going to win the conference. Who do you like out of that group?
Milwaukee. I'm sticking with them. I picked them to go to the finals at the beginning of the year. I've been sticking with them all year. if Giannis didn't miss the last like 4 games, I'm assuming he was just sitting out because he's not injured. He should have won MVP. And I picked him at the beginning of the year. I'm sticking with the Bucks.
I've flip flopped so many times that I can't even remember the last team I picked. Tom, maybe you can recall. Yeah,
it was one of the Celtics or the Bucks. I just don't remember which one.
I'll take Boston.
Okay.
Yeah, and the West, like you're right, guys. It's like so wild how many teams. I mean, like Denver's probably like the most disrespected 1 seed of all time because like nobody thinks they can do anything like outside of like getting past the first round here. I feel like everybody's saying, oh, they go down either Phoenix or the Clippers. Memphis, you got the whole John Morant thing going on here. Sacramento with like historically great offense, historically bad defense. The Warriors lurking. The West is wild.
Yeah, I mean, if you told me that any seed, I'm looking at the standings now, from the Lakers at 7 down to the 1 seed went to the NBA Finals, I couldn't call you crazy. I mean, even the Lakers, if you told me that they went to the finals with the run that they've been on, the way AD has been playing, I wouldn't be completely shocked.
The Nuggets are the most disrespected 1 seed since the Jazz like 2 years ago. Because literally, it's like,
but the Jazz deserved it. How many times were they going to lose in the first or second round? You know?
No, but the reason that I'm like kind of saying, like laughing at myself making that point is because there's so much star power in this Western Conference. Even before Durant went there, like you had those Clippers teams that you want to talk yourself into. You had the Laker teams. You had the Suns pre-KD. You had Dallas. So to me, it's just, listen, as great as Jokic is, their bench really doesn't give you a whole lot. I think they're a very good team. The ceiling is not nearly as high as what I think Phoenix can do. I just don't know how you're stopping Booker, Durant, and Chris Paul in 4 games.
Yeah, I just think it's wild. I feel like everybody in their mouths is saying somebody from 4 to 7 in the West is going to win the West. Like the top 3 seeds are not getting any love.
I mean, rightfully so. I the Grizzlies for me are done. I mean, Adams is gone. They don't have any size. Cause who was the other guy that got hurt? Was it Jackson Hayes or is he? You know who I'm talking about, Sean?
Brandon Clark.
Jackson Hayes' doppelganger.
There you go.
His brother. Yeah, I mean, they don't have enough size. I just think they're in complete flux. I don't think Memphis has a chance. Sacramento, I mean, come on. I have to see it to believe it. And then Denver, I don't know. I guess I'm going to add myself to the people that are just disrespecting them because I don't see them being able to do it.
I don't think it's disrespect. I think it's just, hey, they had a great regular season. They were also the most stable out of all these other teams. They never suffered a serious injury. They were pretty much the same team throughout the year. Had a little bit of a bump in the road. But overall, it's like, I don't know how you go against Phoenix. By the way, Tom, I agree with you on Memphis. I don't like anything about that team. And wait, don't be surprised to see a Dylan Brooks heat check, a classic Marcus Smart one where he makes 1 3, chucks up 10, and the other team goes on a 14-2 run.
No doubt.
All right, so let's wrap this up here. Like, start of the playoffs here. We're going to say, we'll go over your picks. You'll put Oklahoma City in the West as the 8th seed and the Bulls in the East here. So, like, who do you guys have making the finals?
Well, I already said I got Milwaukee coming out of the East. I've had that all year, and I've been a little more flip-floppy with the Clippers and the Suns and the Warriors. Those are my 3 that I've been kind of stuck on. I'm going with the Suns for everything Sean said a couple of minutes ago. As long as everybody can stay healthy, I'm not going to sit here and predict injuries, so I'm going to say that they're going to stay healthy. As long as those 3 guys can stay healthy, you're not going to be able to hold them down for 4 games of the series. They're the most talented team by far. They have probably, in the playoffs, I might take him over anybody right now and Kevin Durant, not to mention the other 2 guys, so it's the Suns.
Boston and Phoenix for me.
Yeah, so we're all in on the Suns here. The superstars going to make up for the fact they basically trade all their depth away to make sure they got Durant.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen.
Yep. Stars winning the playoffs, man.
Who do you have, Mike?
Like I have the Bucks in the East. I've been a big Bucks guy earlier. I think it's the Bucks Celtics in the conference finals here. Out west, I still am vacillating between, like, I do think I'm higher on Denver than you guys are. I feel like whoever wins the second round series, Denver and Phoenix, I think it's going to end up being in the Western Finals, in the NBA Finals in the West.
All right, gun to your head. Who goes?
I think for some reason I'm still high on the Nuggets. I'll take Denver.
Okay.
Oh, wow. All right. I like it. I respect it.
Is that because you feel bad or you actually like it?
I do love that Nuggets team. I think that they don't get enough respect. I feel like they have a lot of good playmaking ability here. I do think that like Jokic is such a matchup problem. I don't think that Phoenix has a lot of guys who are capable of like handling him.
That is true, but just keep in mind he has been relatively held in check in the playoffs.
Yeah.
By his standards.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no Jamal Murray. No Jamal Murray last year. Now that he's healthy, he should also help.
Yeah, for sure.
I like it.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to personally thank you, Mike, and to just end the suffering podcast if they're doing a parade downtown Denver. They're gonna say nobody believed in us except for Mike Phillips.
You're the only person I've heard pick them, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, I've been on Denver all year. I had the Denver over as my best over/under picks.
Good pick.
It is.
All right, so that's all set. Thanks, guys, for coming on. Before we let you go, how can people keep up with your podcast? Follow whatever you guys are doing on social media.
Follow us on Twitter at Sorry Sports. Our podcast will come up there. I tweet it out every single time. That's the easiest way to find us.
All right, sounds good, guys. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.